tonight. The first part is the 410 report, which is what we're required to do every year according to the Illinois compiled statutes. So we do report in writing to the city manager, city clerk, and the finance director within 60 days of the close of the calendar year, and we've already submitted that report, but you get the oral presentation of it. So basically, the first few things I'm going to go through are what are required regarding the law. So we have our revenues and expenditures, and I'll get to that a lot more in depth when we get to the second part of the presentation. But these are pre-audit reports, and it does include some encumbrances for this year. Our stat overview, we had 379,987 items used. So that includes our print, our online, and our database. So if you took online and database usage and looked 20 years ago, those things would have been print items. So that's how things have changed over the course of not really too long. And then interlibrary loan is actually what we loaned libraries outside of our Prairie Cat Library Consortium. It asked for extension of services. So these, I could do slide after slide of different folks that we partner with. So these are some of the big ones. And within all these current partners, we have multiple things that we do with them, if you will. So for example, Spring Forward Learning Center, we go to many other programs throughout the school year, but we also do the summer enrichment programs with them at their 7 spots. Then we also go to the King Center for many things and take our show on the road and help out in any way that we can. So fund requirements, we ask for the 4.9% increase every year, and I will get to that a little bit later on why that is, but that would get us about $106,000 more for next year. It's less than $10 a household per year. And it really, depending on what the equalized assessed value does, it might not mean that the tax levy goes up, and that'll be in a chart that's coming up. But that increase helps fund the inflation of pretty much what you would expect. Electronic and print materials go up 3 to 5%, but the online publishing world, the e-books, is really a killer for libraries right now because of they charge us more than what a person would pay if they were to go to Amazon or Audible or one of those places, because they factor in that it does circulate to more than one person. So what you might spend $20 on, we might spend $150 on per copy. Plus, some companies such as Macmillan are going to be sued, if not already, on antitrust because they're not playing fairly, and they own most of the big publishers. So they keep jacking their prices up and up and up, and libraries and actually people can't afford them. Personnel and health care is an obvious one. We know those go up. Some of that's even contractual with our UAW. And then our service contracts go up 3 to 5% every year as well. So accumulations and liabilities, we have a 90-day reserve for the city finance policy, and then we also have a reserve fund for building projects. It's a special fund. We have no liabilities at this time. And then other facts and things about the library, the things that we're really proud of this past year, the increase in library services used, just 352,000 plus transactions by staff that had to happen person to person, couldn't happen digitally or through the self-checks. That's how many people we touched this past year in our facilities. We had that huge increase in program and event attendance, and that can be attributed to our strategic plan. 11% increase in electronic material usage. We had a lot of visitors. We launched our new mobile library. We closed our 3031 library. We now have electronic library cards for those who either aren't able to come to the library or only want to use our electronic materials. Before, they would have to come in and get a card to be able to use just electronic materials. So that's pretty popular, actually. And then our Community Comforts Drive was huge success this year. It was the first time we did that for the Rock Island homeless shelters. And I always throw in a lot of pictures. These are all from programs that happened this past year. And the reason I do that is to give you an idea of, you know, people aren't just coming in, checking out a book or checking out a movie and leaving. They're wanting to learn at the library, hands-on learning, and not just children. A lot of these pictures are of kids because they're just so fun and excited to be there, but we have just tons of programs throughout the year. From Hug a Book, which is funded by our foundation. It's for the 5 and under group who are just learning to read, to Rocket into Reading, which is 6 to 10-year-olds who is that second level of reading. This year we had Jason Reynolds come to Rock Island High School. That was a huge partnership program. There's actually 4 different pictures up there, and then the one on the far right, you'll see that portrait. One of the students made that for him. It's him. It's beautiful. It's a painting. I mean, the love that during that program was amazing. I mean, and 2,000 plus students were motivated to read in pretty much 45 minutes. It was awesome. We had the Navy Band downtown this year. We had numerous special guests and projects. Not only do we have special guests come to us, we are considered special guests when we go out into the community, such as the schools. The Day of Learning happened at the, what's it called? Tax Slayer Center now. Tons and tons and tons of kids, and that's sponsored by the John Deere Foundation and many others in the community. And then some more hands-on learning, as you can see. And then I put this one in here because we do stick to our historical roots. The top left pictures of the Freeze lectures, which have been around 20 years. The top right is me. I accepted the Library Centennial Award from the State Preservation Society. And then the bottom left is our Comforts Drive, and then the bottom right is our new mobile library, which we did used to have a bookmobile. We now have a mobile library. It's different, but it's the same. And then here's a few with some of our adult participants. We had the big table discussions. We do a lot of crafting because that's what people always want when they fill out their surveys. And we had the virtual reality with the new bridge. Had hundreds and hundreds of people come through that, see that throughout the year. And just some more. So this is a deeper look at our budget, which is what the department heads were asked to do. So we were established on August 12th, 1872 by the city ordinance, and you can read the ordinance online. We opened our doors to the public November 25th, making us the first public library to actually open its doors, but not in the building that we're in, because there's a lot of misconceptions about that. It was a couple buildings ago, but we were the first to open. And our mission is probably what the mission would have been back then had that existed. I mean, we are there to make our community stronger by connecting people to resources, services, events, and to each other. So we're the weird ones of the group, to say the least, and I have tried to figure out the easiest way to explain this. We have a municipal public library board, and we have a public library district. The municipal public library board is appointed by the mayor with the council approval. It has to be done every year with rotating 3 people every year, either reappointed or newly appointed, so there are 9 members. It's governed by the Local Library Act. The Local Library Act, this is our law book, part of the Illinois compiled statutes, and it's not big print either. There's a law for everything. And our levy is, you guys are our corporate authority, and you levy our taxes for the library levy, but it's determined by the Board of Trustees to appoint. The statutory rate is 0.15 for library boards to set, and we can't go over that. But since we're a home rule municipality, we can go as high as, what we need to run the library. So anything above the 0.15 is what we ask for during that 410 report at the beginning, and you guys will decide during budget time if that is something that you can do on our behalf. All of our expenditures from the fund are the sole discretion of the library board, and the governance of the library, including hiring me and evaluating me, is done by the library board. So I have my 9 bosses. And then the Milan Blackhawk District, they don't have a physical library or collection. They are governed under the District Act of '91, and they are all elected officials. They have 7 members, And so they run for office just like any of you would. Their taxes are levied directly by the district. Their limitation is 0.15 as well. And so everything that Stephanie does an amazing job at for the city, I do in a really tiny way for the library district. So I'm writing their appropriation ordinances, their budget levies, and things like that. And take it to the county and make sure all of them vote and do the right things and everything's printed in the paper as it's supposed to be. And it's just a lot of extra work, but they are a contracting district and they have a contract with us, and their governance is limited to what is in that contract. Right now, the way the contract reads is that all of their funds will go towards the operation of the Southwest Library, in a nutshell. You'll notice the city council isn't on there, and it's not because I don't think you're great. And I really do try hard to be involved with the city, because I think that's the only way it works, is to have a relationship with our city folks. But in legal terms, there's really only two things that the council does for the library besides appointing our board members, and that is levy our taxes, and then if we were to go out for any sort of bonding, we would have to go through you. This is our organizational chart. It's very simple. I am governed, like I say, the board of trustees, my 9 members, and then you appoint them. My employees, personally, my direct reports are the PR outreach liaison and all the department heads. We only have 2 supervisors besides that, one for the mobile library and one for the Southwest Library. The rest are part-time and full-time positions. So we have 25.49 full-time equivalents. Regarding the budget process and oversight, I think that's what you probably really want to know about, that there is a lot. The board has a finance committee. It meets multiple times per year. They approve or make suggestions or disapprove, however you want to put that, our proposed budget as well as our capital improvements projects. So I don't bring anything to the council that the board hasn't already seen or approved regarding the budget. We have individual meetings with the finance director. We have individual meetings with the city manager. Not only me, the finance committee members who would like to come also do. And then I, like the other department heads, do a budget presentation to city council. Every meeting we have the same as you. They approve our bills for the past month. And then we also have a quarterly financial review on all of our line items and see if we're on track with our spending, over or under. Usually we're under, which is great. Sometimes we're over, but that has to do with our contracts more than anything, because they're annual, and if those all come out at the same time, it's going to look like we're over budget. So our actual revenues, this is how it plays out. 79% are from municipal library property tax, 9% from district tax. We have per capita aid grants. That's our state money. That hasn't been raised in, well, I've been here 7 years. It's never been raised in that time. In fact, it got lowered at one point in time. It's back to where it was. They're trying to do a 21% increase right now. Our governor is to those lines. We're always kind of hold our breath that we're going to get it in any given year either. But since it's a grant, we actually have to follow certain rules to qualify for it, and we also have to apply for it, telling them what we're going to spend it on. And then, like any other grant, at the end of the year, we would have to write a report on how we spent the money. Foundation grants are going to vary every year. There's some years we've maybe only received $25,000. Other years it's quite a bit. It's higher this time because of the mobile library purchase. But what I can say about foundation money is a lot of it is under a restricted, so those who have donated to the foundation wanted it to go towards something specific. So it isn't that they just give us $100,000 and we get to spend it however we want. That we write a grant to them, basically, for their money. Fines and fees are our library fines and other fees that we charge. They don't amount to a whole lot. Gaming money this past year, we did receive $40,000 for our gate upgrade and our self-check upgrades. And then there's just a bunch of stuff that falls into that. We do get other donations to the library, not the foundation. We do charge office space lease to the Midwest Writing Center, other grants, and then we do sell some merchandise. So that gets you our total revenues, and that is a pretty depiction of what that is. And then our expenditures, I'll get into that a little deeper, but 60% is personnel, which is, I can't imagine really going any lower than that. I know that the city's around the 75% or so, so we have our personnel costs well under control. Supplies, those are what you would think they are. Services, those are like our service contracts, so those are maintenance contracts. Our electronic library materials fall under that, and it's a very expensive thing, our databases, ebooks, and things like that. Transfers, we do pay the city money for their support, and then we also have fleet and other grants there, and then the encumbrances. Again, personnel is the big part of that chunk of expenditures. And I did this because I thought it was interesting. I'm always analyzing our budget. Just 5 years ago, we had 31.42 full-time equivalents, down to 25.49, down 9 people more than anything. It's a big change, and you can see the difference in cost. It goes back to why we ask for that increase every year. So we just negotiated our contract with our labor union, and just from easy math's sake, at a package that is approximately $250,000 over 5 years, that's a $50,000 personnel increase every year for 5 years. This past year, we were very gracious for this, and I don't want it to come off in any other way. We received a 2% increase. That was $41,000. So that's not even meeting the needs of the labor union contract to cover all of our expenses as an increase. So I just bring it up because it's amazing what an extra $50,000 can do for us. And as someone who is a taxpayer and sits at every one of these meetings and listens to, what you spend money on and whatnot, and I think, wow, that could have paid for staff for us, or that could have paid for a database that people were wanting. And I'm sure every other department's the same way. We're not unique, so I'm not saying that, but it's just amazing how far, 50 to 60,000 extra will do for us. Same for supplies. Those vary every year, and you'll see there's a huge jump in all of those. It's because we order in bulk to get the best rates, and so some years we do spend more money, but then we don't buy, say, toilet paper for a year or something because we got a really good deal. Services, I would say most of those maintenance contracts are for the downtown library and all the things that we've been going through with our HVAC, which hopefully will be get a little bit better over the coming years. Again, our electronic materials, databases, licensing, and certification, those easily go up 3 to 5% every year. And then our physical library materials, we also have dues, continuing education, and promotional items in there. And transfers and contingencies, that's going to vary every year depending on what we do. It's so high because we started with the mobile library, with the fleet stuff, and had some capital improvements in there. So this is a decade of our tax levy change, and Stephanie does an amazing job every year of showing how we've been pretty flat during a certain part of our time. So you can see where that is, 2015 and 2011 for sure. There's only about a $260,000 difference over 10 years, so $26,000 a year difference each year if you average wise. If the way it's supposed to work is our tax levy, if our EAV, our equalized assessed values, were to go up and the tax levy remained the same, we would then by default receive more property tax revenue. Well, that's not what's been happening, except where the red is. That's when they actually went down because it was adjusted because the EAV went up. Had it stayed the same or went up just slightly, it would have meant a lot more money to us in our operation. So just want to point that out. It's not a huge difference over 10 years, particularly since things change so much and increase. So our value, I put in all our statistics on the ALA website for our usage this past year, 7.6 million if everyone were to buy everything. That's a $3.57 return on investment for every tax dollar spent. We also have 25,000 plus circulations coming from non-Rock Island card holders, and that doesn't mean we're sending it to their libraries. These are the things that they're checking out at our libraries, meaning they're coming to our town to use library service, potentially spending money at local businesses and things. So we are a part of community and economic development in our own way. I know a lot of people have questions about how are you going to do 3 buildings in a mobile library, and it's a fair question. I mean, we're always looking on the positive side that things are going to get better, and a lot of things have been happening in our city, and we're really excited for that. Planning is really the way to go. We have proven year after year we can stretch a dollar. So I'm looking personally into creating some sort of operational endowment for our foundation. Right now, they can't fund true operations, but there might be an opportunity there. We're also going to have, a bigger footprint at the Jewish Center, but the bulk of that bigger footprint is going to be in the community room that is currently the synagogue, which won't be used all the time, only when we have a program. Programming is done by those who don't work the desk, so it's going to be handled by our reference people who are stationed downtown who will take their programs there. And so it's not a space we have to monitor. In other words, our collection will be about the same size. We'll be adding the small meeting rooms that people want, and then we'll have a service desk not unlike the one that we had at 3031. It'll have expanded parking and an outdoor area, the things that people have been asking for. So we really don't believe that is going to be a huge monkey wrench into our budget. Plus, the perks of partnering with another organization is that you share costs for things that right now we have had to pay on our own, such as plowing, mowing, things like that. I mean, those are things that we pay for separately. Currently, that we'll be able to pay for together, which will hopefully be about a similar cost for a better facility. We do need to reconfigure downtown. That is a project that we'll be working on after the Jewish Center project. It's not a very efficient building because it's cut up so odd. There are things that we can do that we are investigating. Our adjustments, we need to be open when and where people want us open. Staffing adjustments, that's something we're always working on. And basically, we just take our pile of money and slice the pie a little bit differently, and we're not afraid to do that and be probably pretty darn successful at it. Our final thoughts, all of the departments are so important, and I love working with them. We all really want what's best for the city. I can only talk about the library and my excitement for that. But just to put your mind at ease, there is a continual check and balances of our budget by the board. And Jenny can certainly speak to that if she wants. She is on our board. And then we work on the budget throughout the year. And as I said in my budget presentation, every library and reading room established under this act shall be forever free to the use of the inhabitants of the city. So your fee for the library is what you do pay in property taxes. Everything else at it is for you to utilize. So that is really what I had to say, and I'd be glad to answer questions, maybe.
Angela, I don't have a question right now, but I want to congratulate you on an excellent report. I was very impressed when I read it with the numbers of people that are using the library, the number of programs that are being made available to them, and I think you and your staff and the library board deserve to be congratulated.
Thank you.
Yep.
I will pass that on. My staff is amazing.
And I would like to just recognize, I believe I see one board member in here, Deb. Is here. Is there anybody else on the board that's here?
Sorry, I haven't turned around.
And then Alderman Swanson is the liaison or whatever for the city council that sits on that board. And then Kathy Lalonick is the director of the foundation, and obviously manages that and helps the financial side of it. So,
Couldn't do it without him.
and thank you everybody for their time and their commitment to that, because
Thank you.
so thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Angela. Appreciate that. So next up is a presentation by American Water. What I'd like to do, though, real quick and give a little prelude into this, just to give a little background, is that in our talks when we were doing goal setting last June, the topic of privatizing water and sewer came up. It wasn't, a lot of questions came up with it. And so with those questions, because there was a lot of questions, it did not make the goals for 2020 when we were setting our goals and everything else. But it talked about that we would like to continue to research and just understand what it's about. So what tonight is really just about understanding what it's about. There's no decisions been made. It may come up in our goal setting again coming this June or whenever we have them again. And we'll see where it goes from there. Even if it shows up on our goals for 2021, that would be more for investigation, not a decision to do it. It would be, once again, to continue to research and talk. No commitments even at that stage for this is a very complex project. There's people here that sit in the audience that work in that department, work with Public Works, and do an outstanding job. And we do not want anybody to feel threatened or anything else at this point. That is not the intentions of the council. We haven't talked about it totally, but I think that's a consensus. That we are doing this partially as transparency and wanted to be very open with the general public along with the employees and everything else, the conversations. We didn't want to have them all behind the scenes and surprise people what we were thinking, not doing at this point, just thinking and researching. You don't make these decisions without a lot of discussions to move forward. So hopefully that sets the stage. To American Water, there are a couple people with the water and sewer area. They asked me, union representatives, they would like to ask a couple questions and speak. So unusual to this format, I think we're going to allow them to get an opportunity to at least air a question or two type situation. Also with this, because the last couple times we've run over, we would like to conclude this part of it at 6:30, an hour from now, basically, to give people a chance to take a breather before we start the council meeting. So hopefully that all makes sense, and thank you for everybody's patience, and let's get started.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the City Council, my name is Randy Moore. I am the President and CEO of Iowa American Water Company, and I'm extremely happy to be here this evening to further discuss this opportunity with you. And I'll explain why I'm so excited in just a second. But first, I want to introduce a couple of people. I brought some support staff with me. Mr. Tim Leahy, sitting here to my right, is our Director of Business Development and Government Affairs for the Midwest Division of American Water. He has jurisdiction in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri. Also have with us Mr. Rich Kirkhope to my far right. He's the Director of Rates and Regulatory for Illinois. Next to him is Mr. Frank Grage. Mr. Grage is a supervisor on the Iowa side. And then right behind me is Eric Lawson, who is our superintendent for the Peoria operation. And then sitting behind him is Mr. Jarek Lucky, who's the superintendent for our Clinton operation. And I think that's covered everyone. As I said earlier, I'm excited about this opportunity, and I'll tell you why. A little over 40 years ago, I started working with American Water, and I started as a plant operator working on the front line. I was part of the Plumbers and Steamfitters Union, and I worked a 21-turn shift. I worked 2 days on 7 to 3, 2 days on 3 to 11, 2 days on 11 to 7, and I did that for multiple years. And then I decided I wanted to do more with this company, and long story short, I'm not here to talk about that in detail tonight, but long story short, through the support of this company, this organization, I was able to go back to school. I earned my bachelor's degree, went on further and earned a master's degree, and now I'm the president of Iowa American. So I love this company, and I can speak passionately about this company. That's why I'm here to talk to you today about the opportunity that this company wants to present to you. American Water. American Water is the largest investor-owned water and wastewater utility in the United States. We've got a presence in about 40-plus states across the nation on either the regulated side or on the market business-based sides. And we do water and wastewater. That's all we do. That's our sole focus. Here's a few things that the organization called Truth from the Tap has put together regarding the nation's water and wastewater systems. It says there's about 101 privately owned water systems in the country. And you can read the numbers. I won't insult your intelligence and try to read everything to you, but just a few key points there. The 10 largest water companies have invested some $3 billion in 2018 in water system upgrades. As you can see, there's a lot of pipes that's underground, 100,000 miles. 73 million Americans are served by private utilities across the country. So Illinois American, which is the subsidiary of American Water that would be interested in engaging or going further, partnering with Rock Island and an opportunity. Illinois American has been in existence for over 140 years here in the state of Illinois. Serve over 34,000 water and wastewater customers. A real exciting thing about Illinois American, from 2016, 17, 18, and 19, they've been rated the highest in the Midwest utilities for customer satisfaction by J.D. Powers, which is outstanding. 24-hour service they offer to all the customers, and offering financial assistance to customers through the Illinois American H2 online help programs and others. Some of the benefits that are delivered to the communities that not only Illinois American, but Iowa American and all of our American subsidiaries across the nation serve to the communities that we're in, eliminating the operational compliance responsibilities from the city. Illinois American would take on all of those responsibilities that the IDNR would be concerned about or EPA would be concerned about for your water or wastewater system. They would become issues or burdens depending upon the level of concern for Illinois American. Providing funds to promote capital investment, which is required in a lot of communities that are deficient. There are a lot of things that have to be done with the water and the wastewater systems that, quite frankly, a lot of municipalities just can't afford to do. Water and wastewater is all we do. We've got the capital available to come back and support, take care of the work, and get the work done with minimal impact to the residents of the communities that we serve. We have such a large base across the nation that's how that can be worked, and we'll talk a little later about that. We provide some payment options. One of the key things about the communities that we are in, we are property taxpayers. We pay taxes in the communities that we serve in, just like any other property owner would do in your community. There are also opportunities for franchise fees made available. Help and support with economic development in the communities, and we have community partnerships in a number of different venues. One of the things that we're really proud about, and we understand, and I believe this, and I preach it with my water company hat on all the time, we believe that our greatest assets are our employees. So everything that we do is centered around the support, the safety, and the welfare of our employees. If we were to go further with this opportunity, one of the key things that we would make sure that everybody involved would understand is that our intention would be to continue on with the current and existing employees that are with the organizations. We recognize and we understand that to come in and to remove all the employees would be the definitely wrong thing to do for a number of reasons, but for the smart reason is that they've got expertise that we wouldn't have, and we certainly couldn't and definitely wouldn't take that away from the organization. We would continue to fill vacancies from within the community if vacancies were to occur. We'd work with the bargaining teams that are in place and to make sure that we've got good faith bargaining going forward. The employment would be comparable to their current collective bargaining status with their salary and their benefits. There would be management leadership opportunities that probably don't exist now. I speak about me. When I started with the company as a frontline operator, I've had the opportunity to move literally all across the Midwest. I've lived in Indiana, I've lived in Ohio, lived in Michigan, and now I'm here in Iowa. And all of that has been because of opportunities afforded me with American Water to grow and to develop. There's trainings, there's career advancement, there's professional development available for all of the American Water employees. Now, I'm going to ask if Tim Leahy, our Business Development Director, would kind of talk a little bit about the labor focus again. I don't think we can spend too much time about that, so, Tim?
Thanks, Randy. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, good evening. My name is Tim Leahy. I'm Director of Business Development with American Water. My background, I came out of the labor movement. I was a business agent at United Food and Commercial Workers for over 10 years, went to the Chicago Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, one of the nation's largest central labor councils. When I left there, I was the Secretary-Treasurer. My term ended, and then I came to American Water. I wouldn't be with American Water unless we were a good union employer, period. American Water, we have an outstanding relationship working with various labor unions. We're stronger together. The collective bargaining process begins with negotiations, and then it's day-to-day, week-to-week engagement with our employees, with their business agents. In 2016, the U.S. Federal Mediation and Conciliatory Services, FMCS, recognized American Water and the utility workers, AFL-CIO, for the productive relationships they've had. And they recognized us with an award. Currently, American Water, we collectively bargain with over 16 international unions. To name some of them, AFSCME, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, International Chemical Workers, International Union of Operating Engineers, the service employees, the plumbers and steam fitters, United Steelworkers. So there's a whole host of labor organizations that we successfully bargain contracts with and adjudicate relationships with them. In particular, AFSCME. Currently, right now, Illinois American Water in Jerseyville is negotiating with AFSCME District. Their local is 1479. I think the staff rep is a gentleman named Matt Whalen. So we're in the process of negotiation because we're acquiring Jerseyville's wastewater system. In Pennsylvania, Steelton, Pennsylvania, our sister company, Pennsylvania American Water, acquired the wastewater system in Steelton, Pennsylvania. The workers represented by AFSCME. We negotiated successfully a contract. AFSCME District Council 90. It's gone very well. Don't take my word for it. You can call Carla Insignia, District Council Representative, or Juan Carter, staff rep from that District Council. Across Illinois, you don't have to take our word for it. Talk to the laborers, Local 165 out of Peoria, Matt Bartolo. Talk to Glenn Ramage from Belleville, Illinois, who represents, he's the president of the Southwest District Council of Laborers. To speak. Glenn Ramage knows more about American Water than we do. I mean, we've been working with Glenn Ramage for a long time. And then the utility workers, Jimmy Jeanette, business agent, has got the Midwest Territory. We work with Jimmy Jeanette a lot in labor relations. So we're proud of our labor relations. No one's going to lose their job. Like Randy mentioned, for young workers that want to make a career advancing in the water and wastewater industry, the sky's the limit. For the senior workers, we're going to take care of them. We know they have different needs than younger workers in terms of their pension, their benefits. We understand that. We're going to take care of them. So again, thank you for your time tonight, and I'll turn it back to Randy.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we think we would be able to provide for the community. If you look at on a national level, when we track the national infrastructure conditions of the water and sewer, we've got a couple of examples here in the slide of what typical water lines look like now in the various states across the nation. There's going to take a lot of money to fix the issues that exist. The American Association of Civil Engineers has suggested that it's going to take a little more than $1 trillion nationwide over the next 25 years to just bring the nation's water and wastewater systems up to par. That's not getting them ahead of the game, but that's just getting it getting it up to par. They're saying now that while we can look across and see that roughly 10% of the nation's systems are very poor or in dilapidated conditions, within that period of time, that 10% will jump up to almost 50%, almost half of the water and wasteline systems across the nation are going to be in major disarray. Illinois American, over the last year, has invested statewide between $70 and $100 million in just infrastructure improvements. If we were to move forward with this opportunity, Rock Island would certainly be a part of that concern. We've got a strong commitment to development. We work with municipalities to encourage other businesses, other organizations, other opportunities to come into their area. We work with the developers in what we think is kind of a unique way. We have programs where when a developer wants to come in, build a new subdivision, bring new houses in, that developer has to put that water main in the ground, but we work with the developer and we're able to refund back to that developer basically over a 10-year period, depending upon the connections that occur, in some cases 100% of the money that they use to install that water line in the ground. That's a huge incentive to developers. Any annexations that occur within the community, we grow as the city goes. As the municipality grows out, we grow out with them. We work really close with the planning and zoning commissions. When growth has occurred, we like to be sitting right there at the table with them. This slide just kind of talks a little more about some of the things that Tim had referred to. We've got some endorsements from some communities that we've recently acquired or that we've been working in for a while, from some of the mayors, from the Chamber of Commerce, some of the fire chiefs, some of the unions. And again, as Tim mentioned earlier, we encourage you to reach out to some of those communities to get their input and see what they say. It's easy for me to come and sell you a line of goods, but if you can get out and talk to some of the people who we've worked with, you can see. Some of the recent acquisitions are also there on the right in some of the communities there. Godfrey is one some of you may be aware of and know of that. Andalusia is one that we're working on now. I'm sure you're all familiar with that community. They're before the commission now, waiting their approval. And Tim mentioned earlier Jerseyville. So to kind of wrap it up, and again, we want to give time for you to ask us any questions that you have. We think we would be a viable option for you to consider. Some of the things and some of the reasons why we believe so is listed here. Having a long-term rate stability process put in place, making career opportunities for the employees, the expertise that we would bring, and then the ability to help reduce some of the compliance concerns that you're maybe dealing with now. Provide financial benefits and long-term solutions at a financial level for the city of Rock Island. To effectively manage the regulatory compliance and to focus on customer service, which again we think is extremely key. And then to have access to a national resource pool. And I'll close with this one story. Actually, I'll roll two into one. A few years back, there was a major tornado that ran through Joplin, Missouri. Joplin is one of the communities that we serve. The entire community was wiped out by the tornado. We were able to mobilize people literally from all across the country into Joplin, Missouri, and there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands, people that were without water service. We were able to come in and within a 4 to 5 day period, every house that was still standing, that still remained, we were able to get them back up in water. I'm sure you've heard about Hurricane Sandy that hit out on the East Coast. Along the New Jersey coastline, we have New Jersey American out there. When the hurricane came through, most of you, if you know anything about how utilities are set up, we use landmarks to mark our key points. We'll say that a curb line is 5 feet off of the west side of a property. Well, when that hurricane went through, it wiped all the property out. There were no curb lines. There were nothing there that you could find. But because of the GIS work that we had done, we were able, through satellite imagery, we were able to locate all of those services and get services back on, get things fixed back up in place. So we've got resources. We've got 7,000 plus employees across the nation that at any beck and call would be here to help if we had any issue at all. So with that, so that I won't take a lot of time, giving my side, we certainly want to thank you again for this opportunity to present this opportunity to you, and then we'd be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have at this time. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Randy. We'll start with the council up here as far as any questions.
One of the calls I've received over the, anticipating this presentation, and I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it from you. One of the successful and programs that is run through the city currently through the sewer lateral repair and the water service repair system, $9 a month covers $12,000 of repairs, $5 for the water. Is that something that you currently offer, and is that the price range similar to what we have?
So we do offer a similar program for water and wastewater. I believe the fee is considerably less than where you are, but we do offer it for both water and wastewater, so it would still be available.
Because I do know within the 7th Ward, it's a program that's well utilized, where we have a lot of breaks. And,
Right.
in fact,
Right.
my neighbor called and said, please protect that, make sure that's still in there if something does move forward.
Exactly, and that's a good piece of insurance, if you will, to have, because service lines are old, like I said earlier, and they do break, and I think the average cost of a service line repair is between $6,000 and $8,000, so it's good to have that.
The questions up here at this point. Go ahead.
As I understand it then, that if this were to, if we were to privatize the water, our employees would be taken care of?
Absolutely, without any question, yes, sir. That would be, and as a matter of fact, I'll throw this in here. If we decide to move forward, and we're going to move to the next level, at that point, we're going to start getting, the leadership from that employee pool involved. And even if at the end of the day your decision is no, we're not going to do it, we want the employees to know all along this process, we're not forgetting them, and they're not an afterthought. They will be a primary thought in this whole process.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Felix,
And
please.
just to add what Randy said, we'd be the successor employer. We'd recognize the union, assume the contract, so no one loses their job, and the benefits stay the same.
Let me clarify, though. I'm sure we'd have to do is actually, if we were to pursue this, once again, I keep on using the word if. It's very-
Yes, sir.
Very critical, you and the people in the audience.
Right.
Is that we'd have to put it out for bid. We'd have to do an RFP and put this out for bid.
Absolutely.
Once again, to protect the taxpayers' money and everything else, to take a look at the, quote, highest bidder and the best quality service, and it goes along with it. It's not just money. But there'd be an RFP if we were to do this. So American Water may not be the only player in this. They just happened to come forth with us and wanted to at least venture down the road with us and help teach us.
One other question, Mr. Mayor. If we had, because some of our towers have antennas on that are used by the city, the P25 system, and some others that we contract with, how would that affect the city with regard to that? I mean, certainly the P25 system is critical. I don't know to what extent any other contracts would affect the negotiations.
Right. So we have actually our jurisdictions all across the nations, we have, just as you do, antennas that are on our tower. When external contractors desire to do so, we sit down and work out an agreement with them to do that. The same would hold in this situation here. We would certainly, if we get to this point, we would certainly sit down and talk about how that would be worked into the contract. Just off the top of my head, superficial thinking now would be that we would just continue as we are now and then move forward with what we need to do. Any external contractors that may not be part of the city, we would certainly want to, enter into a contract with them.
Okay, I'd like to, if you don't mind, Randy, we'll open it up. There's, I think, a few people with city or public works that wanted to ask questions, I believe. Come on up,
Mayor,
that's
I
fine.
just
Don't-
want you to know this is Ivory, and I'm just checking in.
Ivory's on the phone now. Excuse me, no, we have a council member that's dialing in just to listen and everything else. Go ahead.
My name is Nick Hartman. I am ASME Local 988 Vice President. More importantly, I'm a citizen and an employee for the City of Rock Island. I'm the Utilities Maintenance Crew Leader for the Utilities Division. We didn't really have any questions for the company.
All right.
It would be more for the city council if things were to move forward. I will say, if I'm able just to make a quick statement.
Absolutely.
Sure. So as a lifelong resident of the city of Rock Island and also a 20-year-plus employee, I believe that, of course, I'm slightly biased, but I do believe that we provide an essential service to our citizens. I think we do a fantastic job. I think that selling city infrastructure, something that we own since we've been making water since about 1872. So they've been in business for 140 years. We've been in business for 148. I believe it's an essential service that the public should own. As we all know, without water, there is no life, and so it is the most essential element, I think, on the planet and as far as we know, the universe. So something like that, in at least my personal opinion and a lot of the employees, of course, we're, whether we're concerned about our jobs or not, we are concerned about keeping the public system public for all the citizens of Rock Island, and maybe some future expansions. I know there's some talks, and I won't go into that, where we could be providing water to other places. I think that's an opportunity for us as well. I know we're all concerned about revenue. One thing about water and wastewater, they are revenue makers for the city of Rock Island, and once we give that revenue up, we will never see it again. We may get a large piece of the pie to begin with from selling the infrastructure, but I think that's would be rather short-sighted of us, not just on the council, but for all the citizens of Rock Island. And I appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions.
Nope. And I'm going to clarify something I think most everybody in the audience here knows, but for those that are watching TV, you talk about income, and just to let people know that there's enterprise funds is what they are. And so when you get your water bill, that money goes back into that enterprise zone, which only can be spent on whether it be water filtration and or then when the sewer bill, the sewage deal. So that money cannot go into general fund.
That is correct.
And just for people, so understanding, once again, in the TV audience that are out there, understanding that, whether you call it a profit or make money at it, people can interpret that differently. Obviously, there is some positive cash flow. There's money sitting in the account as we speak, but we also have major expenditures that come up that utilize that money, whether we have to fix water mains or replace something down the street, fire hydrants, et cetera. I could go into a lot of different things. So that fund fluctuates up and down, whether it's a positive or starts to become neutral, can fluctuate year by year, depending on the situation. I just didn't want people to misconstrue that it could be used for general funds to go use to fund the police department or fire department or accounting or whatever it is. Those funds are restricted within those enterprise funds for water and sewer.
That is correct. I would also point out, though, that even though they are enterprise funds and used generally solely for water, wastewater, stormwater, there are interdepartmental and divisional transfers of money for services.
Yes.
That would, of course, disappear and probably change operations in every department of the city of Rock Island, whether that's good or bad.
Once again, to clarify, and not to get all the devil's detail tonight per se, but there are funds that go into financing because they do payroll, and so it gets transferred to cover those expenses, as it may for the Public Works Director, because he manages multiple different departments for part of his salary, whatever it is. That's where you're referring to as transfers in and out with personnel that overlap in different areas. So yes, that would change or could change if this was to happen. You're correct. And so any other questions here? Yes.
My question is for the Illinois or the American Water people. And this is something that just came up in my mind recently. I read a lot of your literature. It's very impressive. And the map that you have of your footprint in the United States is very widespread. You
Yes,
should
sir.
add that to your presentation on the screen sometime.
Okay.
However, the question I have is, our city employees are participants in a health care benefits program and, of course, a retirement program as well. And I'm wondering if you could speak to those benefits in your company.
Sure. We have a nationally negotiated health benefit program, and when I say nationally negotiated, our bargaining units with our national leadership, actually those in our ELT in Camden, New Jersey, negotiate our health benefits yearly. And as a result, we walk away with a very good, a very robust health benefit program that benefits every employee. From a pension perspective, as Tim had mentioned earlier, those employees that come over to the American Water side, we would certainly make sure that we're taking care of, because you've got existing pensions that are in place now. And we've even had, and I'm not suggesting this to be a scenario, but we've even had some individuals who were able to retire from their current state with their union and then come and work for us, and they're receiving their pension from that previous union plus a salary from us. So we will work with every situation, every condition that goes on. The one thing that we don't want to do is make someone in a lesser position. We want everybody to be whole if the transition occurs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, all of you, for coming in and sharing this information this evening. I've got a couple quick questions, and I know we're going to try to wrap this up, so I'll make this brief. I'd like you to talk a little bit about rate increases and the structuring of how the rates are done.
Okay.
My second question would be, how does American Water prioritize failing infrastructure? I know you replace infrastructure. What is the process behind determining what needs replaced, how soon it gets replaced?
Okay.
Those
Okay.
sort of things.
Good questions. And then I've got Rich Kirkhoff here, who's actually the Director of Rates and Regulatory for the state of Illinois. So if I miss something, he can help me out. But so far as the rate structuring is concerned, the Illinois Commerce Commission governs the rates for Illinois American. They decide how much we can increase the rates, when we can increase the rates. There is a very grueling and lengthy and arduous process that we would have to go through. If we were to decide, if this were to go forward and the acquisition were to happen, at acquisition, if we were to say, we being Illinois American, we want to raise your rates, well, we can say that, but the Illinois Commerce Commission has to okay that. And to go in and to do a new rate increase, on the Iowa side, Rich, it takes about 10 months. What's the time on Illinois? 11. Okay, it takes about 11 months from the time that we decide we want to do that until that actually occurs. And then during that time, there are literally thousands and thousands of pages of justification that has to be submitted. So I say all that to say the rate making, the rate adjusting, the rate changing process is not something that's really simple for either side. However, the Commerce Commission is there to be, for lack of a better term, a buffer. A lot of people feel like if you privatize your operation, you take that control away. You don't have, the council no longer has the say in what happens with the rates. Well, that council is quasi replaced by the commission. The commission does the same thing. They even, and one of the things that they do that I really like, they will come to Rock Island and they will set up public meetings so that the public can come in and make their comments about the service, about the employees, about the rates, about anything they want. And I'll tell you this, I can certainly speak on the Iowa side, and I'm sure on the Illinois side too. They listen. They pay attention to that. So that protection is definitely in place. And so the other question regarding how do we determine what type of infrastructure improvement we do, the engineers in the various states are coordinating consistently with the engineers from the municipalities that we serve. We're looking to see what type of projects you have, what scenarios are going on. I'll oversimplify this, but if the city wants to open up a hole to do something for the street, or if they're going to dig something up, at that time, if we can come and get in and do some replacement in that particular spot, we do that too. The other thing that we do is I'm sure there's really good maps, really good information in the community about the water and the waistline systems. We basically can look at that. There should be a history. There should be trending that's in place so we can see where the most breaks are occurring at. There should be things that are going on that we can see where do we genuinely need to do the most work the quickest. The other thing that we do, we in some scenarios, we use what we call vac trucks that basically can dig a little quick hole, a straight, small 6-inch, 8-inch diameter hole down to the pipe, and we can take a look at it. We can see what kind of condition that pipe is in, and then we can make a determination on that part whether or not we need to replace it. So there's those processes that are in place that will determine what we do. We know sections of towns, the older sections of town most likely have the older water mains, and so those we're going to take a look at first. But I'm not going to try to pretend that I'm an engineer, just kind of know from a high level some of the processes that they use to make those determinations.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I have a question along
Yes, ma'am.
those lines. I'm sure I'm on. So if in the event you find water lines that need to be replaced, I mean, clearly you need to tear the road up for that, then at that point, you're tearing the road up for the water main, road repair then falls on the city? Do you share that cost, or?
Absolutely not. If we tear it up, we fix it up. I mean, whatever the cost is associated with it. And if we're going to do that, we're going to make sure we're coordinating with the city because there may be some nuances that are going on that we don't know about, or there may be some plans, that we don't know about. So we coordinate very well. But if we tear it up, we pull it out, we put it back in the same condition that it's in. Justin Ladner is the president of Illinois American, and I'm sure I can speak on his behalf as I do for Iowa. It better get put back right. If I have to get involved, there's an issue on our side, and I'm sure Justin's the same way. We don't want any issues on that side. So.
And then on one of your slides, you'd put that, so I've got a couple of calls from people who are concerned about rate increases and financially being able to pay for them. And I know on one of your slides, you said you work with people for payment plans. So I think the concern from some of my constituents were that if they couldn't pay, you would just shut their water off.
Yeah, and Rich can probably help me a little bit on this. We do have a couple of programs that are in place that can help people that are struggling. We do have the payment plan option in cases when they can't pay. To shut the water off is the last thing we want to do. Okay. Because as we were talking earlier, it does have a revenue impact, so nobody wins when we do that. So we want to do everything that we can, even to the point of if an individual is running a little late on their bill, as soon as we see they're late, we won't shut their water off that day. We'll reach out to them. We'll send letters out. In some cases, there may be phone calls to try to work with them to do that. So that's the policy that we've taken.
Okay.
I believe, and this is really good, we're breaking from format, there was somebody in the audience, a citizen that came, that read about this, heard about it, that wanted to ask a question, I believe. Is there a citizen here that, or not?
Do you want to ask, Dieter? Do you have a question?
Okay, yep. Yeah, okay, if you don't mind coming up here. And Ivory, I think you're on the phone now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll let this gentleman ask a question, then if you have any questions, please, we'll give you an opportunity.
Thank you.
My name is Dieter Harley, and I'm a semi-retired agriculturist living in Davenport. And as you hear on my accent, I'm from Germany originally, in this country for 52 years. In agriculture, came here on an original study with the University of Wisconsin, and been active ever since, to get through a lot of chaff here, to come to that point of the question. I've been involved in agriculture in a very conventional way and a very progressive way. And in recent years, genetic modified crops have come into place, and in particular, the herbicide glyphosate. You may have heard it as Roundup. What is a pro-agricultural product and a concept to raise what is has become very critical to me over the last few years in the discussion with your alderman, Mr. Geenan here, is the concern that we find that herbicide in the Mississippi. And I've attempted over time, and I've had it also, I have tests here. I'm not going to talk about all of the things that I have here, but I want you to know there's a lot more information than what you might have heard. And for that reason, as you are in this discussion about water quality, water impact, what's in there, I would definitely want to include in your further discussion that safety net of what is in the water that is basically always government approved per se. EPA and USDA have all the standards raised to a level that there won't be a problem from meeting not the obligation. But from what I have learned as an agriculturist and a farmer at heart and mind, there is a concern, as a health concern, that needs to be investigated, that needs to be laid on the table in this discussion, that needs to be processed with the folks that are water specialists, because at the moment, nobody deals with it. And that's basically what I would like to lay out. If there's more information wanted, necessary, I gladly share. I can refer to, I have a lot of people back up, but most likely there's not much information that that comes easy to you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let you know, of course, this is so preliminary that at this point, we're not going to ask the questions of all that sort of
That's
thing.
fine.
It's so preliminary, but,
I hope that
you know,
answers the
go ahead.
question.
And I'm sorry, and did you finish? Is that all you wanted to get across, right?
Unless there's more time for it.
No? Okay.
It's a very good question. In American Water, we take our source water very important, very critical, and he's raised in a very important issue, the Mississippi, what goes in the Mississippi. So on the Iowa side, we work with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, the Iowa Farm Bureau. On the Illinois side, we work with the Illinois Farm Bureau and the Illinois Department of Environmental Concerns. And also at a national level, we work with the US EPA. You should know, Illinois American Water in Belleville, Illinois has one of the most sophisticated water labs in the world. It handles all our water testing in all of our 40 states. We collaborate a lot with the US EPA. They turn to us to help set standards. So it's a growing problem, the amount of nutrients, the nitrogen from farms that go into the Mississippi. We try and obviously protect our, with our plants, our pumps, our pipes, our meters, make sure our water quality is second to none. But in policy decisions, we're also in the halls of government working with those key stakeholders to make sure we can, cut back the amount of nutrients going into the Mississippi.
That's great. Thank you. And just for knowledge, I don't know if you know that Rock Island is just now going online with a brand-new water filtration plant that's got a lot of the state-of-the-art processes with it, including, if I want to call it infrared. I don't know if I got that correct. The guys back here could probably answer the questions better than I can, or Mike. But we've got some of the state-of-the-art processes that we're just implementing, I'll say as we speak, eliminating our 109-year-old plant to a brand-new state-of-the-art. And whether they're monitoring that or cleaning that and all they're doing, can't speak for that because I'm not knowledgeable, but we are coming online.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Because I would really doubt that you know the actual levels, what it is. I have the tests, what it is in Bettendorf, Iowa, or in Davenport. Right now, coming in the water here. So the issue is, and you may not want to believe this lonesome guy here coming here.
No, it's fine.
Because there's very little of coming about. Farm Bureau does not treat the issue fair. I was a member of the Farm Bureau, and at this particular issue, there is no way that they can prove that this is not a cause. Agriculture needs to wake up to that issue, that it is a fact. But the water quality and the testing for it, and you may have the best lab, I think it needs to be publicized what the levels are. Because I think the public does not understand and is asking questions. Glyphosate, what is it? Most people have no clue. Okay? It's a chemical that Monsanto produces, has been since 1964. Okay? It's widely used, the world's most widely used herbicide, total kill. Long before the GMOs came into place, it's now even used more heavier, and thus the action as an antibiotic and what it does cause is so misunderstood, not understood. And therefore, I think I would highly encourage you to take a very serious look at your water quality in the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you, appreciate that. Is there any questions or comments for the
Have
council
something?
here?
Did Ivory have something?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ivory. Gosh darn it, thank you. Ivory, do you have any questions?
No, Mayor, I just wanted to clarify. This would come up at our budget session before we even move forward in anything like trying to contact or putting anything out for bid, correct?
Yes, not budget, but goal setting. When we do our goal setting come
I'm
June or
sorry,
whatever,
I'm sorry.
that's when this
Goal
would come up
setting.
again.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Anybody else have any questions? If not, thank you very much for coming and helping educate us.
For having us, and lastly, I'll say, if you have any questions or any concerns at all, you guys know how to get a hold of us, and we'll
Yes,
be more
these
than
guys have
happy.
been very good at that sort of thing, so thank you, both of you. All right, thank you, everyone. Reconvene at 6:45.